Good morning. Guys, get me looking like it's 6 a.m. But we made it. So I'm going to give a second in case anybody wants to hop on live and read with me. Otherwise, I'm going to start finding our place. All right, so we're going to dive right in. The way this works is that we just jump on and read for 15 minutes together, and then we make a recording of it and we'll send it out later today for anybody who is not on live. So you don't have to be live and you don't have to have the book. You can just listen to the links. We'll post them all in a row so you can just listen right in order. So, okay, we're just gonna actually dive right into part 1, chapter 1, and it's page 1. So, all right, the beach bum and the millionaire. The only person you are destined to become is the person you want to be, by Ralph Waldo Emerson. I want to tell you about 2 friends I've known since I was a kid, guys from my old neighborhood in New Mexico. These 2 characters grew up together, went to school together, graduated together, and roomed in college together. They were both pretty personable guys, and I got along with both of them. They had identical childhoods, though, and by high school, they had both earned reputations as mischief makers. Still, they both had more than enough drive and ambition to make up for whatever strikes they had against them. When you add it all up in terms of their intellect and potential, I would say they were evenly matched. In fact, they were almost identical in every way except one, which was the different paths they took and where they led. The first friend dropped out of college, moved from New Mexico to Daytona Beach, Florida, the spring break capital of the world, where he became a beach bum, lifted weights, chased girls, and let his blonde hair grow out long and curly. People started calling him Curious George, after the WWE wrestler who brought pro wrestling into America's living rooms. My friend was pretty popular in a big fish in a small pond way, but he was a beach bum, cutting golf greens to make ends meet, sweating in the sun while he lugged around bags of golf clubs for the wealthy. Frustrated and unhappy, he eventually left Daytona Beach and went back to New Mexico, where he went into business for himself. And what happened? The business failed and Gorgeous George lost everything. Then there was my other friend, Gorgeous George's buddy. As an adult, this guy led a charmed life. Graduated from college as an A student, he went on to business school and graduated in the top of his class. Then got recruited by a gigantic tech firm, built a stellar resume, and went on to create a string of entrepreneurial ventures, each one more successful than the last. Today, his life is rich in every way. He has a beautiful, amazing daughter, thousands of friends around the world, runs a record-breakingly successful company, and is happy beyond measure. Yet he still stays in touch with his childhood friend, the beach bum. In fact, they stay in very close touch. I often think about these 2 guys because I know that I could have been either one of them. Matter of fact, I was. Because here's the one piece of the story I left out. The reason these 2 guys were roommates all those years, and the reason they are still in constant contact today, is that they are one and the same person. They're both me. That college dropout who became a frustrated beach bum, who eventually took his shot at business but bottomed out there too, that was yours truly. That straight A college graduate who went on to create one business success after another, who became a millionaire with a fabulous family, friends all over the world, and a richly happy, fulfilled life, guilty as charged. I've been blessed with a lot of success in my life, but I sure didn't start out that way. I started out as Gorgeous George, as the college dropout golf greens cutter. And I'll tell you a secret. I'm the same person today that I was then. Not that I haven't changed a lot through my experiences. We all do that. What I mean is, deep down inside, I'm really no different than I was then. It's not as if I had any sort of lightning strike overnight transformation. I did not go to a mountaintop, did not experience enlightenment, did not have a near-death experience that showed me the truth of universal brotherhood, although I did go through some pretty terrible failures that at sometimes sure felt like near-death experiences. I didn't change who I was as much as I changed what I did. I didn't change who I am because no matter what the gurus and the therapists might tell you, I don't believe any of us can really do that. I mean, we are who we are. The kid who became a frustrated beach bum was never anything but average. Average at schoolwork, average at sports, average in social skills. The incredibly fortunate and deeply happy man I am today is still that average kid. No more, no less. And I say that without an ounce of false modesty. The only reason I've made the transformation from there to here is that somewhere along the way, I've had the good fortune of being exposed to the slight edge. How I got from there to here and how you can get from wherever you are to wherever you want to be is what this book is about. My day of disgust. The transition from beach bum to millionaire did not happen overnight. It was long, slow, at times painful roller coaster process because frankly, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't yet have the key you're getting in this book. I didn't know about the slight edge. I was working it out by trial and error, lots of error. I was born and raised in Albuquerque. My dad died when my brother, sister, and I were just kids. And somehow my mom held everything together. She was a terrific mother, a loving and constant presence in our lives. But it was still a rough way to grow up as a fatherless, blonde-headed kid in a Hispanic neighborhood where he didn't fit in. I didn't know what to do with it all, so I channeled my energy into mischief and misbehavior. A few years before my dad died, when I was in the 3rd grade, my teachers had informed my mom that I had a low IQ. Now I started proving the point, and pretty quickly had gained that mischief maker reputation. While my mom worked her way through the years, I struggled my way through school. By age 18, it was clear to everyone who knew me that I didn't have much of a future. I begged my way into the University of New Mexico. At college, I built upon my previous academic career and succeeded in taking my C average down to a D average. I did learn one thing though. I learned that when spring break came, all the students went out east to Daytona Beach for a week to party hard. I thought I could do them one better. I just quit school altogether and moved there. In Daytona Beach, I pursued my first calling as the beach bum with the long curly locks. To make ends meet, if you can call it that, I took a job at the Orlando Country Club cutting the golf course grass. One day, as I was cutting the greens under the scorching Florida sun, I paused to watch the wealthy club members playing golf all over the porcelain smooth grass I had just cut for them. Watching them hum to and fro in their zippy golf carts and their dapper golf outfits with their classy golf bags, filled with expensive golf clubs, I felt a burning question simmer up inside. Why is it that they're out here riding in carts and I'm over here working? I don't get it. How come they were over there putting while I was over here cutting? Hey, I was as good as these people were. Why did they get to have it 10 times, 20 times better than me? Were they 20 times better than me? Were they 20 times smarter, or did they work 20 times harder? I didn't think so. I felt like there was something going on here that I should get, something that ought to be crystal clear. But that for me was as clear as mud. It all just seemed so unfair. For whatever reason, as happens in so many people's lives, I found myself staring squarely at a fork in the road, a point I now refer to as my day of disgust. That moment of impact we sometimes hit in our lives when we come smack face to face with our circumstances and without having a clue to the what or how of it, make a decision to change. In that instant, standing there sweltering in the brutal Florida heat, I came to just a moment of decision. I suddenly knew that I'd had it up to here with where I was and what I was. Something clicked. The tumblers in the lock fell into place, and I knew that I could never go back to where I'd been only moments earlier. I knew that for things to be different, I had to do something different. I had found one piece of the puzzle, only a piece, and not nearly enough to find my way to genuine lasting success, but enough to get started on the path of pursuit. The superachiever. On the hills of that day of disgust epiphany, I walked away from the golf course, loaded my stereo and clothes into my 1964 Dodge Dart, Slant 6, all my possessions fit easily into the back seat with room left over for a passenger, and took off for Albuquerque. The car kept overheating so bad that it took me 6 days just to get it to Texas. It was the longest trip of my life, and not just because of the crappy car, but because of the distance I traveled in my heart and soul. When I arrived in New Mexico, I had resolved that I was going to forever leave behind the land of mediocrity and start inhabiting the world of high achievement. I was going to pour it on, go on all 8 cylinders. Okay, for the moment, that would be all 6 cylinders, and do whatever it took to move my life ahead. As I said, all my life, I had been no better than average at anything I'd done. Average grades, average in athletics, average social skills. I knew that the only way I could ever become anybody was by working harder and being more persistent. If I wanted to have a prayer of a chance of getting on the team, I had to work harder in the practices. If I wanted to impress somebody in the social world, I had to work harder at it. If I was going to get good grades, I would have to study harder. So I did. That semester, for the first time in my life, I got straight A's. I went on to business school and graduated in the top of my class, and the rest you could say was history, except that it wasn't. I didn't know it yet, but just working harder doesn't do it. If it did, then everyone who works hard would have made it. All you have to do is look around you and you can see that this isn't the case. The world is chock full of people who are working their butts off and still getting their butts kicked by circumstances. I was about to find this out. Fresh out of college, I went to work at the Albuquerque International Airport, where I continued to pour it on and work my tail off. In what seemed like no time at all, I had become one of the youngest international airport managers in the country. I was such hot management material that I was recruited away from the airport by the Dallas-based tech giant Texas Instruments, where I worked for the next 5 years and advanced to the management level as a manager in the company's intelligence systems division. But corporate America wasn't for me. There was a lot of politics, which I hated, and it didn't feel like I'd yet found the place where I belonged. And I was clearly on a super achieving role, right? Honestly, it felt like I could accomplish anything I put my mind to, like I'd learned the magic words, found the secret formula. So I struck it on my own and set my foot on the entrepreneurial path. Moving back to Albuquerque again, I started a solar energy company. I knew nothing about solar energy. I barely knew whether the sun came up in the east or in the west. East, it turns out. But with 400 solar companies in the state, New Mexico was the capital of the budding new industry. So ignorance or not, the smart course of action seemed clear. And at first it looked like I had indeed made a very smart decision. Within 2 years, my company was one of the top in the nation, and before long, we became one of the largest solar energy companies in America. I was thrilled, on top of the world. What I didn't know was that nothing ever stays the same. Everything is in motion, always. Everything changes, and that was what happened next. Times changed, tax laws changed, our industry was hit hard. Before I knew what was happening, my company had collapsed and I had lost everything, gone back to zero and below, owing more money than I could even ever hope to make again. I couldn't believe it. My super achievements had turned to dust right before my eyes. My millionaire life had evaporated, leaving me right back in the beach bum land, the guy with nothing. They even took my car. My night of despair. The night my car was towed away, I sat there despondent in disbelief. Years earlier, as a failed college student, I'd had my day of disgust. Now that the other shoe had dropped, and as a failed entrepreneur, I just arrived at my night of despair. I could not comprehend what had just happened to me. After living as a failure all my life, one day I awoke and came to my senses, went back to college, applied myself like crazy, entered at the bottom, and graduated at the top. Worked for a major corporation for 5 years and went to the very top there. Built my own company in less than 5 years and went to the top there. I had built myself from a failure into a success. And now, after 14 long years of upward travel, I'd somehow arrived back at the bottom. I was more broke than I'd been when I was gorgeous George strutting on the beach in his cutoffs. 12 years of blood and guts, and for what? I could just not wrap my head around it. I couldn't see the justice or even the logic of it, or any of it. I felt like the teenager again, confused and angry at a world where nothing made sense. Was life just inherently unfair with no rhyme or reason to it? What if there was no point in even trying? That was when I began to examine more carefully what had happened in my life. This time, it was no epiphany. This time, it wasn't like that moment on the Orlando golf course. There was no switch I could throw in my life, no sudden resolution to make things better. I'd already done that. And look at what it had gotten me. No, this time I needed to sit down and start carefully, methodically, systematically sorting through the mixed up pieces of my shattered life. There had to be some logic here and I had to find it. So let's see. I had been a college dropout, a beach bum, and a complete financial failure. And I had also been a straight A student, top corporate manager, super achieving entrepreneur in the cutting edge industry, and a complete financial success. And all of those had been the same person. So what was the difference? It made no sense. Or did it? The more I looked at it, the more it seemed to me that this roller coaster was not a matter of bad luck or a fluke of circumstance. It couldn't be. There was something about what I was doing that wasn't working. But on the other hand, there had obviously been times when what I was doing had totally worked. So what was the difference? For the first time, I began to see that over the years of my career, I had gone through a sequence of experiences that held the secrets to success as well as to failure. I began to see that the seeds of both beach bum and millionaire lay in the simple actions I took every day. All righty, guys, we will stop there at the bottom of page 7 with that new header. So have a great day. See ya.